You do have a choice. There's a fork in the road. Whether you're 20 years old, 40 years old, 70 years old, there's going to be a fork. And the fork on one end is I'm going to take more responsibility, ownership, and create some better decisions to create a better future. I'm going to say, well, what is possible? That's kind of what I like to think about first. What is possible? Hey guys, welcome back to another Rest, Eat, Move podcast. It's the duo back in the studio. Dad, welcome in. If you haven't been following, each week I post a blog kind of on this journey that I'm sharing live. The podcast doesn't always line up with it depending on the topic we're doing, but make sure you read that. I posted on LinkedIn if you follow me on LinkedIn, or it's on our website right there at the bottom of the page.
So how are you doing?
Good. Have you read it?
Yeah. How are you? I listened to the podcast on the process. I really like that one. That, it's you can't focus on the outcome. You focus on the process. But how's your process going?
Process is good. Like I said, the key is I'm not really that interested in how am I finishing it next week. So as I'm sharing this, I'm also trying to find the process that's going to work long term. And I think the biggest challenge, and we could talk about it a little today, is I just love to eat food. And I probably eat too much food, but I'm not to a point where I am as focused on quantity yet. So I think from a scale,
you're tweaking it along the way.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I'm trying to get in is the rhythm, get into the focus. I'm just about finishing the 313 periodization at the end of October, and I think as we come into the Halloween and Thanksgiving, it will be a fun experience to share, trying to make progress at the same time you're.
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about, like one of your blind spots was, you just feel like you could sleep better by doing X, Y, Z, and I think that's what we're all, how do we thrive?
Like again, and if you look at the bottom of the blog, that day I had a 19% recovery because Hadley woke up at 3 a.m.
Right, 3 a.m., yeah.
And so as you're asking me this, Papa was sick to take Hadley to the bus today. Mm-hmm. She doesn't get on the bus till 9:40. We had a 9 o'clock scheduled podcast. So how am I doing? I'm doing real well, but life gets in the way. Hadley woke up at 1 a.m. last night, ready to party. So life is real. There's challenges along the way. I think the mistake we make is we give what we think other people need and don't take care of ourselves. And really what other people need is you to give your best when you have it. Mm-hmm. And last week I was speaking to customer service folks. And so, they're assistants and admin, and they're working for other people and gathering documents, and they don't take care of themselves. And I think they think, well, I got to do this for X, Y, and Z, and if I don't do it, I fail, and blah, 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 and the guilt. And at the end of the day, yeah, you need to do your job. At the end of the day, you need to support your family. But if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to be pouring an empty cup. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what we're going to talk about today is creating a new future. So how mine's going? Mine's going good. I'm reprioritizing my own health in a way that I haven't been doing.
I think that's the takeaway. It's just, again, different season. You're talking about, last 6-7 years, the kids and craziness, but now you're being more intentional about it. I think that's the whole message we always try to talk about, is that there's different seasons of life, but how do you create more intentionality?
And it will never, it's never going to necessarily just be simple. Like today I'm going to drive to Chicago 4 hours, speak tomorrow, drive back, go to the Michigan State game Saturday, and then I leave for Vegas on Monday for a 4-day conference. So, you're out of your rhythm and your habits. And the key is when are you going to start? Next week? Next month?
There's always something.
So today you wanted to talk about creating a new future, which led into ask me how I'm doing. The blind spot thing is so interesting to me because, like I said, I think we're trying to duck out of all this uncomfortableness in our society. Whatever you believe, but you can go get an upper, a downer, a stimulant, depressant. You can watch 20 different streaming devices. If you wanted to watch a game or on demand, no commercials, text a friend, like everything is so right there, readily available. And we avoid this uncomfortableness.
Well, and I think you mentioned the other day, and I've been experienced this, but you had a coaching call, and on the coaching call, you got somebody that's going to tell you everything in the world. So you're 45 minutes into a coaching call, and you're really just listening to them telling you. And I'm like, okay, so number one, you don't have this curiosity right away. I mean, if I'm coaching with you, I want to pick your brain. Tell me this, tell me that. I want to know that.
Yeah, and that's some people, maybe that's just a discomfort they have with conversation. They just want to talk. But in many cases, when it comes to health, everyone's an expert. You eat 3 meals a day, you sleep, your habits are all the same, and we never tell anyone that they're wrong. But I think nobody really wants to step back and say, what is possible? Like, I like how my pants fit, or I don't like how I look in the mirror, but you're going to have to take 2 hours and step back and say, well, what do I want? That's a little scary.
Well, I was at the MAC, 6 months ago, and this guy walks over to me, and he's, I worked there for many years, and he walks over to me, and he's an older gentleman, and he says to me, couple questions about strength training. And I said to him, well, this is what I would recommend, instead of worrying about the weight, focus on the range. We talked about this before. How big is the movement? What do you really need to work on? Obviously he has mobility issues and whatever. And after a little while, and he says, well, he starts debating me. He walked over, engaged with me, and then he said something about, well, I've been strength training for 60 years or whatever. I didn't even know what to say to him. I said, well, I do this for a living. I've been doing it for, and so he's debating me how long he's been doing strength training. And obviously, I don't want to say, but, have you ever thought about maybe changing the way you try to move your body, that you're in the mid 70s?
It's a good point. So last night I had a session with a company where I actually took them in their gym at their office and took them through some exercise. And one of the ladies, who's fantastic, she's having some issues with menopause and hormones, and she's frustrated. She's working out in her mind harder than ever before, and the scale's going up versus down. And I can hear her frustration. I can see her frustration, yet as somebody external, I don't have any vested interest in it. There's some things that she's got huge blind spots on. And we try to open those up, and she saw a couple of them. An example is, she says, I'm training real hard. I had her doing some very basic stuff in our mind. May not be basic to everybody. And she's got a very disproportionate strength from lower body to upper body, So I don't know what she's doing exercise-wise, but there's 25 different things that I would do instantly. Yet she's still frustrated because she's putting all the work. The second thing is, what's the goal? Well, I want to lose weight, be fit, be stronger. Well, if you're strength training, you may not necessarily lose weight if you didn't have weight to lose, if you're gaining strength and muscle and all that kind of stuff. So back to your guy, he comes over to you. That's what we're going to talk about today. What do you want? And a lot of people, I don't think, even know what's possible to want. That's scary. And when you look at our society, and you used to tell me that your grandmas and grandpas' friends would come at 40 and say, "Well, when you're 40, you fall off a cliff." Not if you don't want to, but if that's what you believe, if that's what you've been around, if those are the 5 people around your life that kind of like make you do that. So let's create a different future. Let's talk about how to create a different future. Let's talk about why you'd want a different future. That's what we're going to talk about today. So let's talk about a couple topics. Creating a new future. Let's say you have a family history of chronic pain, inflammation, maybe even MS, Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, inflammatory
diabetes,
inflammatory sourced issues. They call, dementia type 3 diabetes. Let's just say you have that, or maybe you have a family history of weight. It's always been a problem, excess weight. Or maybe you don't want to get to a point where you don't have strength or mobility, bones breaking, brittle bones, fitness. And so let's back up and say, okay, you're in a position where you're looking and say, I don't want that. That to me can be a very powerful driver. Mm-hmm. It also can be a very powerful limiting belief. So maybe you understand where I'm going right now, but that's kind of what I see happening in our society is, well, everyone's stressed. Everyone's anxious. Everybody, is taking Wegovy and Ozempic, and it becomes normal. Well, we've talked about this a lot. It's not normal, but it's common. And so if you're somebody that's 45, 50 years old and they have a family history of inflammation or weight, what would you start to talk them on from creating a new future?
Well, the first thing you want to go back in time and start asking some questions like, what does their lifestyle look like? But very quickly, I talk a lot about epigenetics and your behavior matters. And so you can break that chain. So whether it's cancer, heart disease, obesity, diabetes, whatever it might be, you might have genetic tendencies. We all have them. But your behavior trumps that. So you want to maybe just let them pull a curtain back just for a second and say, hey, you mean diabetes is preventable or reversible, or, I've always been overweight. Well, okay, you might have a tendency to be, overweight.
When did family history become a risk factor? When we were learning ACSM or any of those certifications, it was like, what's the family history? That's like the first question. I understand how it can be valid, but right now I see a lot of people that look identical to their family. And then I see a lot of people that have broken the chain, and you're like, that's just such a fascinating.
So we show a slide of the United States, 1970, moves all the way up to today.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most gripping slide at the very beginning because we have to set the tone in presentation.
Right.
And so you see obesity in 1970, and you could put anything in there, blood pressure, diabetes, whatever.
All of them, all diseases are
you can put them all
high.
in there. Mm-hmm. So in 1970, the entire nation basically is green. There is no obesity. So you can't blame it on genetics because it's not that long ago, right?
Right.
So once we set the tone,
you're not talking about cavemen, cavewomen.
No, we're talking about right there. So you can go, and then it's an eye opening because all of a sudden we go from less than 10% obesity across the board to close to 40% obesity. So right away we have to set that tone in a presentation, and they don't have the hand up yet because it's a large audience. So we're backcountry skiing or snowcat skiing a couple years ago in Aspen, Colorado. And so we get to know the guides, and there's 2 guides, and we lucked out because it was the snow wasn't great, so we had a small group. So there's only 4 of us with 2 guides. It was amazing because normally I have 10 skiers. So I'm talking to the guide. She's 64 years old at the time, and she's this tiny little thing, amazing skier. You get to know her. Starts talking about she's from Virginia. And I said, how many siblings you got?
From Virginia, right? Yeah.
She moved to Colorado to go skiing or go to school. And anyway, she became a ski guide for the last, 40 years. So I asked her, do you ever ski? You ever bring your siblings out? She said, oh no, my siblings are all, 300 plus pounds. They're all diabetics and whatever. So I said, where do you fall? And she said, I'm the second oldest. And I said, so she said, I had to break the chain. I had to move. So it had nothing to do with, here she was. She has this family.
Genetics.
Not genetics. It's just lifestyle. And so that hit me like right in the forehead. Like she lived in this environment, and then she moved out of the environment. And we've seen this over and over and over. And she wanted to create a different future. And she did.
Now, creating a new future at any moment or for anybody creates or requires energy and effort, right? I think that's
Well, I think the first thing it has, you have to have that vision. So that's what we have to plan is like, what could this look like? And so for this woman, she got a taste of, what could it look like? Because we know it's the circle you hang with. And if that circle is, the family, doesn't matter, friends, coworkers, whatever, it's the circle.
But like I'm saying, breaking that circle is
you got to break the
too.
circle. It's an effort.
That's a challenge.
Yeah, so you have to decide, or do you want to help the circle get better?
Right.
And that's
even, yeah.
Now you're pushing.
So in the book you talk about creating a new future, chapter 3, page 11, And your first thing that is staring right at me right now is taking responsibility for our own health. The elephant in the room or the elephant in the society is this gets very emotional. Mm-hmm. It gets very emotional that it's my fault or it's not my fault. And I can see how psychologically our mind wants to take it to it's not our fault. Why do we need another stress? But it's not about fault. It's about responsibility. Fault and responsibility to me are in two different buckets. It's my responsibility to put the seatbelt on me in a car. It's not the fault of the seatbelt that it didn't go on me. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think we've kind of used that word of, well, I don't want to feel like it's my fault that I am overweight or have inflammation or have a chronic disease. And I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. Some of us are dealt a bad hand and we can't always control those things. But it is our responsibility, and that's where the word power comes in our mantra of you have the power.
You completely flip the switch. You go from fault, which is a negative, versus I want to take control. I want to take control. And so now, again, it's nobody's fault. It's just I want to take more ownership in that outcome. And what we always talk about is it's not about being perfect. It's about you have the power. Like, okay, so now that's completely uplifting, energizing. I don't have to be perfect, but now I'm making those progressive steps in a forward movement. Now it's not anybody's fault. Yeah, and you can look back in the rearview mirror all day long. We all have faults, right?
It's never going to really do much. And then you write a page later that better health is a decision. And I think, again, this has to be talked about more because I think what's going to happen, pharmaceuticals, medical establishments, let's go conspiracy for a second or let's go negativity, but they don't really have a vested interest in your health. There's no vestible interest in you staying healthy.
I have diabetes, it's not your fault, so here's this medication.
Yeah, and we both get very frustrated. The Diabetes Association.
Yeah, so again, we're not saying, people have stuff, but we're saying, okay, let's make a decision that I want to move in this direction versus I want to go to that direction.
Yeah, we have this document that we made, the Yellow Brick Road, and you do have a choice. There's a fork in the road. Whether you're 20 years old, 40 years old, 70 years old, there's going to be a fork. And the fork on one end is I'm going to take more responsibility, ownership, and create some better decisions to create a better future. I'm going to say, well, what is possible? That's kind of what I like to think about first. What is possible? And when I talk to people in a presentation, they actually can open up. When I work with them one-on-one, I talk about this a lot. You talk about this a lot. The reason I don't love to work one-on-one with most people that haven't gone through a vetted avenue is they don't think what is possible usually. And that's what your gentleman says. He came in there asking a question without curiosity.
Yeah, and I was speaking in Vegas, and I have this woman I was talking to the other day, and she's thinking about she's an endocrinologist, and she's thinking about becoming a speaker. But she said you really captivated the audience like instantly. And I said, well, it's interesting. We've taken a lot of time to set it up, let their brain start to work before you launch into here's the resting, eating, and moving. You can't just do that. I've felt this a little bit. I've done a couple presentations called, Your Health Keeps Score. Well, a lot of the audience has never seen you before, and so you're just jumping right into this. It's almost too quickly. They haven't been set up about creating a future and being curious and beliefs and all that kind of stuff.
Well, think about it. We're used to using ChatGPT to answer a question of where we're going to go eat. There's no time. There's no space, and space is required. If you're going to paint a future, it has nothing to do with tactics. What are you going to do? What's the temperature of your room? None of that stuff matters when you're creating a future. Right now, you have to dream. And if you're trying to break a future, or if you're trying to change a future because of family history or what you've seen over and over and over again, or society, then it's going to take a little bit of thinking, vision, dreaming.
And when you start going down this path, that's the last thing most people want to do. They just get me, like I was talking to this trainers the other day, and I said, one of the things you guys got to do, the more valuable time you will ever have will never be out on the floor working them out. It will be in the space, having them start to change how they think.
Challenging them.
And getting them to slow down for a second, not going out there and getting a sweat, but changing their vision of where they want to go.
Well, okay, it reminds me, I was talking about this guy, Dr. Damon Arnold. I write about him in Capacity. I've talked about him before. He was my academic advisor at Grand Valley. I didn't care about school. I was going to get a scholarship. I didn't have to even fill out a form to get into school. I was lucky. But my grades were to a point where they just wanted to let me free, and so I had to go meet with him. Here's the thing. Up until that point, every advisor, every teacher that wanted me to do better, and they had good intention, was like, well, you need to read 30 minutes a day or do this homework.
All the tactics.
All the tactics. Mm-hmm. In the first day, second day, he says, Matt, why are you here? He painted a different future.
Yeah, he told you didn't have to be here.
You don't have to be here. You're here because you're not doing the work. You have to make a decision. It's the same thing. If someone was facing me and they're type 2 diabetic, or even they have family history, whatever, it could be the worst case scenario or trying to avoid the worst case scenario. It's still a choice. And you might not be able to predict it or control everything, but you decide that I'm going to take personal responsibility, because what we can never get back is if we say, well, I'll do it later. I didn't know I needed to do it. I didn't believe it could work. All those things are wasting time because you haven't decided, do I want to have better health? Do I want to create a different future?
And that's the big one right there, is you have to decide.
Yeah.
And
so
that's why
it had nothing to do with tutors.
Dr. Arnold was so successful.
Yeah.
Because he understood it's not about tactics and strategies, it's about changing.
He pointed down this hallway. There's 15 other student athletes that really needed some support. Mm-hmm. You're wasting my time.
Wasting my time.
Yeah, but I'll be here. I'll be here if you want me to be here, but wasting my time. And so we do see that occasionally. I think somebody got referenced to call me later, and it sounds like they have a world of health issues and some struggles, and one-on-one is very difficult. Because we protect ourselves, we have all the reasons and the excuses. Like yesterday, I was working with this group. They all have different excuses and reasons, and they thought I was going to teach them an exercise program, and probably didn't enjoy it for the first 10 minutes because I was teaching them how to exercise. There's a completely different game to it. I don't enjoy taking people through a regimented exercise. You know this. Mm-hmm. That's why I never like to do a lot of one-on-one exercise coaching. But if you come to me curious and say, how do I exercise? I love to teach you. Mm-hmm. It's like golf. If you want to learn how to golf, I love to teach it. If you want me to fix your golf swing, that's not my thing. Mm-hmm. It's too tactical for me, and I find that the tactics are different for everybody. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of creating a future. The first step is we have to understand, and we've spent 20 minutes so far, you got to take the responsibility.
But this is an important point because, again, we do a lot of tactics and strategies and what to eat, not to eat, how to.
All Instagram is tactics.
Yeah, so
it's full of tactics.
But and it's funny that when we speak more and more, do you have a diet book? I'm like, kind of, you're missing the point here. Is like we're teaching a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And a lot of the good stuff, as you're noticing in the process, that's the good stuff is in the journey.
Yeah, it is the. Well, I turned you on to vacation, and Rusty's miserable going through the journey, the process.
Right.
But we do all want the outcome.
Yeah.
That is the carrot. That is the motivator.
Like Bob Cornwell always said, and there is this, but if you could take a pill to get in great shape, would you take it? And obviously, we do that in our country today. But reality is like playing the piano. It's like you don't really know how to play the piano. You're playing a song, no different.
Yeah, he was teaching how to play a piano.
So the key is if you said, I want that kind of the discomfort to go through this to get in great shape, that's the...
Well, I'll make one last point. You have kids or grandkids, or you're a teacher or you're a leader. You have to teach people how to think and do for themselves. If all you do is give them the roadmap, and we're seeing it. I mean, The challenge with chat is it can do some really good things, but if you don't learn how to think, then it's very limited. If I'm teaching as football and I know he can score by running to the outside every single time, and I don't teach him how to run through the tackles, and if you don't follow football, I'm doing him a disservice because at some point, he's going to have to learn how to run through the tackles. And that's kind of what we're teaching is like we're dabbling with all these tactical, trendy things. Like, oh, I'm going to go do a meditation class, but you don't teach people the fundamentals of breathing. Mm-hmm. Or I have to wear this thing to listen to it, or this wearable to know if I'm breathing correctly, versus do you know how to do it without the tools? If I dumped you in the woods, can you survive without the map?
Well, and you said this in the podcast, it's a lot of science to everything's science, but reality is where's the art?
Yeah.
And that's they had a 30 for 30 I was watching with the Celtics back in the day, and they acquired Bill Walton with Larry Bird and McHale and Robert Parrish and Dennis Johnson and all this.
On paper, it doesn't look good.
And he's been injured and whatever, but Kevin McHale said, this is the smartest guy I've ever played with. So when you put all those pieces in place, they were unstoppable. And in fact, they were disappointed that they ended up playing, I think, the Houston Rockets. They didn't get to play the Lakers. But when they brought that little thing in there, which is Bill Walton, it's like it's nothing to do with tactics and strategies. It's all the art of playing basketball. Right. And so you can't even teach this.
You see it all the time. Some of these guys or gals that have played but have the art of it. They don't jump as fast. Like Kobe in the last, he's playing chess. These guys are playing checkers. Mm-hmm. Yes, he's physically still gifted, but like
and they're talking about with the Golden State Warriors and Steve Kerr. They had an interview with him, and they were talking about Steph Curry attracts more attention without the ball than any. Well, that's the scheme. So again, that's the art of basketball. It's not the shooting, the jumping, whatever, but and it's no different than what we're talking about right now. It's like the art of a lifestyle, and the big part of it is, number one, you have to create this vision of what it could look like, and that gets exciting. I think that's when you start opening people's eyes up for that. They're like, wow.
It's exciting, but last week I could see some people very scared of the topic that I had because they've gotten comfortable saying, my hip hurts, or mm-hmm. I have inflammation, or I have this disease. That's a big crutch for a lot of folks, and I'm not downplaying, but a lot of our disease or symptoms.
But if you can temper that a little bit, again, that could be real in there. But if you can temper it and say, okay, here's the deal. We just want you to do one thing, not 10 things. It's not so scary. Don't make it so scary. It's compound interest. Let's just do this one thing. And I think if you can get people to start going, okay, I tip my toe in the water, and then eventually maybe the vision starts to open it up.
So if someone had a family history, cancer gets very emotional, weight gets very emotional, chronic disease and illness gets very emotional. One of the things that we'll say, because we're in a podcast right now, is I just think people are more capable and deserve better health than we're seeing. And if you kind of digest that for a second, and people can take a breath on that, that's what's possible. And I think we get so fixated on the excuses of why we're here. When we work with someone one-on-one, and that's what you're talking about, people just rattle off why they're here. We didn't even ask. Mm-hmm. Now, we want to uncover that in the discovery, but why do we care so much about why we got here versus what are we going to do to change? I mean, that's truly the
Yeah, it's nice to know a little bit of the history,
but
we're not going to dwell on that.
Yeah.
We're going in a different road. Here's the new road. We're going to Wally World. Okay, how do we get there? Right?
Yeah. So step one, creating a new future, wanting to create a new future. I've said this before. If you haven't read or haven't kind of looked at this book, Comfort Crisis, this is also the predicament we're in. We're avoiding discomfort, and yet we're limited in what we think is possible. And when you do both of those things, it's a ticking time bomb, and we're seeing that. First generation ever is going to live less than their parents' generation. It's because we created this limiting belief in this society that we try to eliminate all discomforts. No, you shouldn't have any discomforts. Me and you both know if you want to be in your best shape, you will have to be uncomfortable. Me and you both know if you want to be in physical shape nutritionally, there's going to be some times that you're not eating what you probably want to eat. Mm-hmm. Now, there's an art, there's a science, there's progressions, there's ratios. So then we go to the secret of change. So we can't change until we say, well, I want a different future. Now, you might change, or there might be some motivator, but let's go into the secret of change. You talk about Grabwell, Grommet, and not to spend a ton of time on this, but our biggest opportunity is we're the source and solution for our health. Mm-hmm. We're the source and solution for our health. So if your health's going in the wrong direction, first thing we got to do is we got to get you to change your mind.
Well, and I think the thing you said at the very beginning, you got to take responsibility. You want that healthcare professionals over here. You're building a team. You might have an amazing massage therapist or reflexologist or physical therapist. You're building that team, but really the hub is you. And so it's important to, we try to help them build their team, but it's not fair to the doctor to go in and help think they're going to fix you in all these areas. So that's step number one is,
they won't fix
they
you.
Won't. They're going to they're going to Band-Aid you. They're going to fix the symptom. So the first thing I always tell my clients is, number one, I'll help you develop a team. But the step number one is, you talked about this in the podcast, you got to have this self-awareness. What are your blind spots? What is it? Do you know that you could get off this blood pressure medication by doing X, Y, Z? I'll just throw that right out there to them. And they're like, well, how? I go, so how does the blood pressure medication work? So we have to go back and say, okay, this is possible, but it starts with this self-awareness that you did not know that if you calmed your nervous system, you probably would have lower blood pressure. I did not know that. That's a blind spot. So that's the first thing we want to talk about is the self-awareness, because we all have, you talked about it today, the best drivers have blind spots.
All of them, yeah.
Everybody's got a blind spot.
NASCAR driver has a blind
spot. Everybody's got a blind spot. I have them, you have them, everybody has them. So, but let's uncover that a little bit and say, maybe I could, I don't maybe not go from 250 to 150, but maybe I could go from 200 pounds to 199. Okay, there we go. So that's the self-awareness piece is step number one.
And we, what makes us different, or not different, a lot of people know self-awareness is key to change. But if you just look around, and if you're telling your kids and your grandkids, self-awareness will never be what you see advertised. Because what's advertised is going to be entertainment. So engagement is always the key. So when you're watching the news, you only watch the news if something grabs your attention. Self-awareness requires you to go inward, internal motivation. That's a key difference, because when we talk to people, I can't go into the grocery store, look at somebody's cart and think that's the worst food, and I go up to them and say, hey, you shouldn't eat like that. They don't have self-awareness. I can't make anybody do anything, even if they say they want something, unless they have the awareness of where they're at and kind of where they think they should be going. I say this in my audience all the time. I have the target. How many of you know what you shouldn't eat? Yet every diet and program out there and talking head tells us of what food's going to kill us. Mm-hmm. That's not the problem. Everyone knows it. But why aren't they doing anything about it? And so in that case, we talk about what you should be eating versus what you shouldn't.
Yeah, we try to move in the good stuff, not take out the bad.
But self-awareness is step number one. Step number two, this is to me the most exciting part. Whether you're trying to strategize a business, strategize your health, maybe your financial, vacations, the life you want to live, is like, what do you want? Do you want a vacation home? Do you want?
It's interesting. So I'll bring that out, and then I just sit there, and then I listen to talk, and they'll say, "Well, I want to lose weight." Oh, okay.
Keep going.
How specific is that? You just keep going. So I want to be healthier. What does that mean? So now we have to take what you had mentioned earlier. You have to take the time to really go, what do I want?
Yeah, and possibly in that one question, it goes, I want to lose weight, and 15 minutes later, they're crying and saying, I have no space, I'm super stressed, and I feel like I'm just surviving.
It's a symptom.
Yeah.
So it's like people always talk about money. No, money's just a symptom, or that's a symptom.
And I think we're doing a disservice as I watch this, Ozempic and Wegovy and these weight loss. That is a symptom, and it can be very helpful for maybe certain people.
Yeah, we're not poo-pooing
but I
all
think one of the
medications.
things that we're doing is we're distracting ourselves of what we really are looking for. When somebody is overweight and maybe they're thinking about a pill to do it, and they've tried the exercise and some nutritional things, but there's probably something else that they want. Play with their grandkids or outlive what their parents lived, or there's probably something a little bit
There's
deeper.
something in there.
Yeah, and I think back to why we started with creating a new future. I think a lot of people avoid thinking about that. And you probably avoid thinking about something like that because maybe you don't think it's possible. Our dreams go away when we stop.
Well, it's interesting. We did this training program for a large financial institution, and it's 3 days. Dr. Phil, Matthew Cross, and myself. But what's so magical about it, they had 3 days, and then they came back and did 3 more days, and it gave them time.
Yeah, first day they all think you're kooks.
Yeah,
Second
and it gave them time not only in the first session, but it gave them time between that and the second session. And the second session was magical.
Yeah, right.
But it was the time, and they had to think about that versus before they're running 900 miles an hour. They're masking everything. They're masking their pain. They're masking everything. And so again, it really opened them up. Marriages changed, health changed, transformation changed.
And then they come back and they're ready. And we had a long discussion with Dr. Phil on this about space and time. If you don't have space and time in anything, you're really doing not a deep dive. And that's where I think a lot of people miss out on what is possible because they start to get focused on the want. So this lady that I worked with yesterday that's frustrated about weight, her next conversation with me is we're going to go deeper and really, what do you want?
And then get specific.
Yeah, what you want is not really the scale to move. Because I can tell you, we can move that scale and you won't look the way you want. Or we don't move that scale and you look the way you want and feel the way you want. And so if all we care about is scale,
right,
and you ask me how I'm doing, I talk about the scale a little bit. It really doesn't do much for me because I look in the mirror and I see some change happening. I also feel differently. Strength is different. Fitness is different. My ankle flexibility. I'm sleeping different.
We used to have to remind people. They'd come in and they'd train like, man, this isn't working. And I'd sit back and I'd say, okay,
yeah,
your triglycerides are down 60 points. Your blood pressure's back to normal. You're off your medication. Your
skin's glowing.
Your skin's good. Your hair's not falling out. The list goes on. And they look at me
happier.
like, yeah, you're right. I said, so you get so focused on this. In reality, it's working. It's, that bamboo tree is growing. It's just the weight's not just showing up right this second.
It kind of reminds me, I just got a new iPhone. The thing could probably put you on Mars. It's got every little tool. But there's a camera glitch thing that's driving me crazy. And you'd probably look at this thing and want to toss it in the street. Well, that's technology. There's always going to be some glitches and stuff. But 99% of it is doing things that are unthinkable, magical, right? But we get so bombarded with this, everything should work the way that I want it to work at all times.
Right.
You laugh at all the time. Your phone's playing music and you say, well, my phone's broken. Well, I think the user has something to do with it. My phone's not playing music. So I think we get so, it is important to get very specific on what you want, but also giving a chance to think about what you truly want.
Yeah, giving
Don't
yourself
just
some
spew
time.
out what you think I should know. I don't care what you want. My job is to guide you.
Yeah, we're talking about doing a retreat with your sister and giving people time to really dive in deep.
Space and time.
And really
so
what
step
they want.
2, what do you want? Step 3 is you have to have that powerful emotion, that why. And everyone's kind of heard us talk about that. It's very important. I even talk about sometimes when you feel like you're stuck and you can't figure out the why, you got to tell yourself, why not? So reverse it for a second so you at least get started.
Yeah, if you can't, could be a small why, could be a large why, but throw that in between as why not.
For me, the power of why and why not goes back to creating a new future. Or you could reword that, creating a better future. Why not create a better future? What is your reason why to create a better future?
We always talk about, too, like I had a gentleman the other day I was coaching, and we talked about this and that, and he's got a new grandbaby, but I said, let's just, because he had some stuff, and I said, let's just take you out of the equation. You disappear. What does this look like? It's like It's a Wonderful Life. What does that look like? It's complete silence on the phone. He's like, all right, you're getting me. I said, well, that's what I want you to think about. If you're out of the future, what does your family environment look like? And he goes, okay, I get it. I said, you weren't getting it.
Right.
But now you're starting to get it, because you're at that point. You have to decide, what's this going to look like.
Yeah, and you're not the Grim Reaper, but you got to give him.
So because his why was he wanted to walk his granddaughter, she's only 9 months, down the aisle. Well, he's 60 years old, so it's probably going to be 85, 90 plus years old. But I said, let's go back. I get that. That's a great why, but that's way out there. I want to know right now.
Yeah.
You got your kids, you got your business, you got your wife, you got this. Let's go right now.
What are you
Let's
going to
take you out.
What are you going to sacrifice? What are you going to give up?
Right.
What are you going to?
That's way out there. That's great. That's a great one. But let's go closer to home, a little bit shorter. And I think that's where we have to all step back and say, today, what could be my why? What do I need to know? What do I need to do? And have that, because that really moves mountains.
Yeah. And so again, if you don't have a why, I think one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast is you deserve and you're more capable of a better future than most people think. Number 2, everybody is needed. Everybody's needed. And so you can't give, in my opinion, what you don't have. All of us have something. Like, we all are surviving. But I think when you flip the mindset that if I can give what I'm meant to give by taking care of myself, now we start to paint a different
we
future.
want to tell everybody how much we love them. But when you throw that, how much you're needed in that conversation,
health matters a lot more.
It changes the conversation.
Yeah, it's like we all think about, okay, it's nice to get a card that says you love them, but I want you to be there. So there's a difference between just kind of giving people without taking care of yourself. Yeah, that's appreciated. But when you take care of yourself and then you fully give, and there's a huge difference. I think a lot of people, nurses and people that are in that kind of that reactive taking care of people mode that don't take care of themselves normally. Mm-hmm. I think that those people are gifts, but they've sacrificed their health.
And then understand that they're needed, because if they don't take care of themselves, that's not going to last long.
You can't do anything when you don't have your health.
Right.
Step 4, build habit one step at a time. So this is where the tactics come in. We're in minute 40, and now we're talking about tactics. Don't get so bombarded with tactics. It all begins with one step at a time. So your tactic's different than my tactic. If you're getting your blood work, you're probably going to do some different things than I'm focused on. Even the outcome might be similar that we're looking for, the number to move.
We have tons of tactics and strategies.
Tons. And you're going to be bombarded with this and like the gadgets and the gizmos, but understand you got to create a habit. So tactics are important. Habits are what matters. And if the habits can become rituals, and if your rituals, for the most part, people want to be around you because you have these health rituals that you can feel, right? It's not like you're forcing it on it. It just comes very natural because you've been doing it for.
Well, one of the things I did a podcast with Tom
years.
Matt the other day, and he said, summarize this at the end. And I said, okay, this is simple. Number 1, nutritionally, because it was tough. You just get up in the morning and drink 10 ounces of water. That's it? Yep. Just 10 ounces of water. Take your tablespoon of cod liver oil. Upgrade your breakfast. Fast for 12 hours and basically 80-20 rule. Just now we're being more intentional. And as simple as that sounds, he goes, wow, that's really doable. I go, yeah, it's got to be doable. So that's what we're talking about right now.
Check that off, and then we can go to the next.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, if I can do that every day and build that compound interest. Or you talked about that in your podcast. That this came out, like the gal you're talking about. Let's get intentional about moving your body every day and finding activities you like. Don't make that hard. If you're not moving your body, give yourself 10 minutes every day to move your body. If you do it for 10 minutes every day, you're going to start figuring out what we need to start doing. Is it strength training? Is it walking?
Yeah, and I think everyone does a disservice to themselves when they say, I've done everything. I've done everything means that you're stressing out now about something that shouldn't be stressing you out. Because at the end of the day, you haven't done everything. There's always an opportunity. If I took you to a ranch and you quit your job and all you were doing is focus on that, you'd get to where you want to go. Mm-hmm. Is that doable?
But
no.
when we talk about movement or food, or you were talking about even with sleep, there's so many different tweaks,
nuances
as you get better at it. I realized, wow, that's new. Like, as much time as we spent in the gym, you start doing different movements, or you see something, you're like, twink that a little bit. And people say to me all the time, how do you know that? I said, well, because I've been in the gym for, 60, almost 60 years. So you're just playing around. You're playing. And that's what's fun when you're in the gym. It's not so rigid and regimented. You're just going, okay, let me try this today a little bit differently. Let's try a different type of push-up, or maybe I'm just going to get on the floor and do a couple of new stretches I saw the other day.
Yeah, I honestly, I got this like love-hate relationship with yoga. I love it when I do it. There's times where I just don't have the patience to do it. Yet I'm curious to do it. Mm-hmm. Or whatever it is. I may not like this class, but if I say, well, that class is lame, you haven't done it.
Right.
Or I don't like to work out. Many of the folks that were there and they did step one, they came, well, I just don't like it. Okay, well, I might not be able to, I can't force you to like it, but let me show you a couple different ways to think about it.
Well, I remember, as you know, Dr. Phil Nierenberger very well, he would come in and these advisors would come up to me and they'd consult with me on the side. Now, is Dr. Phil going to talk about breath awareness? I go, yeah. I said, because you guys aren't doing it, so he's going to talk about it. It's so powerful. And number two, he would say, you need to meditate for 30 minutes a day or you're wasting your time. And I would have to coach him. I said, hey, I understand that. I completely understand what you're talking about, but let's tell them 5 minutes a day.
Yeah,
let's put your toe in the water first, because they're not going to do what you. I completely agree with what you're saying. They're not going to do it.
We had a practice where they were screwing off this year, and the next practice we said, hey, you're going to suffer next practice. We're going to work, and we said you gotta run 30 yards and then backpedal 30 yards and blah, whatever it was, and you got to do it in 7 seconds. And so they do it, and it's 25 seconds. 25 seconds. And so Donnie, our coach, says 8 seconds. And they're like, oh, gosh, so close to doing it. And so back on it. We can do this. We can do this. So
right.
they're now gassed and they're tired and they're thinking they're going to throw up. And, okay, 7 seconds and we're done. But if you don't do 7 seconds, and now it's 30 seconds. 6.9, 6, and they, you will open up what's possible.
Right.
So now they're not defeated because
Correct.
I failed. You
make them successful.
And so that's the key here is when you're creating a new future and your future is saying, I want to, live this perfect life. That's not probably possible.
Right.
But if you say, I think I can paint this and do this, and here's the steps along the way, and follow the yellow brick road, we're creating this journey, this lifestyle.
And again, when you're doing this, whether it's the food, again, it goes on and on. Am I chewing the food long enough?
Yeah, it's simple. Yeah.
It's intentional.
Mastication.
Your mom's doing a better job with me, but we need to sit at the table and eat dinner and talk.
You're not shoveling it.
I'm not shoveling it. Watching ESPN or something, right? And so, but it's a good exercise for me because you get into these bad habits over here. So, when you guys were growing up, we would be sitting at the table.
So think about this. I was working with these customer service folks, and you don't want to be this person. Everyone's like, well, when I used, back in my day, I did this. But I said, how many of you are not taking a lunch break? Almost 100%. You're listening to this podcast right now. How many of you do not take a lunch break? I can tell you to do the cod liver oil and eat the fruits and vegetables. How about take a lunch break? And that's where we're so on one spectrum.
You're taking a lunch break and the phone isn't part of the lunch break equation, right? The phone's not even engaged.
Yeah, or next time you fly on an airplane, try to not look at your phone. I mean, there's so many nuanced little things, and you say, well, why does that matter?
Well, I don't do that because I don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
It's on airplane mode. That's it.
Again, back to the outcomes. But as we end this, step 5 is feedback. And this matters as much as all of it, but it matters nothing until you do the first 4 steps.
Well, again, it's having the courage to measure.
And yes, I agree with that. One of my points that I was going to make is we are so bombarded with feedback.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to go to the doctor. I'm going to get the tests. I'm going to get the data. I'm going to have the Whoop and the wearables. And I talked about this a couple weeks ago. Feedback matters so much to help us tweak, and that's what I talked about with the blind spots. Yet feedback doesn't do step 1 through 4.
Right.
Feedback doesn't do creating a new future.
Well, you just got to step back and say what you just said. A feedback is, okay, if I drink alcohol, do I sleep as well? If I don't move my body, that's the feedback we're after. You're just paying. You're not.
And I see a lot of people say, "How well I got the feedback," but they don't even look at the feedback they don't want to look at. They don't allow to be coached in the areas that they know.
Because most feedback has nothing to do with a Whoop or any wearable.
Yeah. How do your ankles feel?
Yeah, how do you feel?
I sprained my ankle 2 weeks ago, so you're asking me how I'm doing. We have setbacks, but how does it feel? Are you doing anything for it?
Yeah, get your blood work done twice a year, whatever you're doing, and all that kind of stuff. But there's so many other ways to let the body talk back to you.
Yeah, do you feel a little bit on edge, even though your numbers say the same?
Yeah, I was listening to ESPN coming in, and they're talking about 5-hour energy drinks. My feedback would be, don't you have energy? Why do you need a 5-hour energy? So that's the feedback we're talking about. So now you're starting being aware, like, well, why do I need to do a 5-hour energy? And it's got, all the caffeine is a 12-ounce cup of coffee. Okay, but why? So anyway, when you develop these habits, now it gives you a little more structure. You have the self-awareness. You focus on what you want. What's my why? Small, large. What habit am I going to build? And then, pay attention. It's the monitoring and the measurement.
So let's wrap it up with one key takeaway. My key takeaway is all of us, and if you're listening, we highly appreciate and know that you are trying to take responsibility for your own health. Let's just say you have someone in your life that's not, and you're listening to this, and you're just hoping and wishing and dreaming that they will. You can't.
And then the other thing, too, we have the Rest, Eat, Move book on audio. And so if people want to listen to it, it's free. We can definitely help. You can just go to YouTube and get all that information there.
So the question you may ask if you're struggling with that in that situation is to kind of open it up and see what they want. Allow that box to open. Don't tell them tactics, strategies, what they should do, what they're doing wrong, blah, blah, blah. Ask them if you could. And this can be scary and sometimes but keep nudging them of what would they do or what would they want to have if anything is possible. And once you open that up, once you get a little bit of that, now we have an opportunity even for yourself. And so to take responsibility requires us to believe that we control our health.
I mean, I think people would all be dancing if they felt like nobody was watching.
Everybody would.
Mm-hmm. So let's dance and not worry about anybody watching.
This is my takeaway, and I stole this from your book. And just a side note, you used to have the the Garfield calendar quotes on your
I still
voicemail.
have it.
Yeah, so I'd used to call my dad for something and go to voicemail, and he'd have these motivational quotes from the Garfield calendar. So they'd think he was so
deep.
The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but building the new. That's where we have to spend our time, is creating a new future, a better future, or maybe you're on the right path and you just got to continue to repeat and develop these habits. So let me know if you have any new Garfield quotes on our next podcast so we can motivate the audience.
The shell must break for the bird to fly.
There you go. I'm gagging. Okay, we'll see you again next time.